Good afternoon, wanderers. Bullet Wanderer here, and we're back with another video. And today I have another thing very special from Denmark as well, and it's also dark blue. So without further ado, here is my new bike. So, as you can see, it's a smaller cc bike than both the Bullet and the Kawasaki, but it's got a lot of style, and that's what it's all about. Now, I won this in a competition from Carlsberg, Carlsberg Zero, as you can see, during dry January. You just text in the number, texted in bike, and a couple of weeks later they rang me and they told me I'd won this, so I was delighted. And in person it's a lot nicer than it was even in the pictures, so really happy with it. But let's go over to specs, and then we're going to go off and look at a local castle, round tower, something in between those two. As you can see, it's not a big cc engine, but it does have a lot of go in it. It's a single gear. So what's its fuel capacity? Well, its fuel capacity is pretty good. It's lunch, so you might be out in it for a bit, but it tends to get a bit sluggish after maybe an hour or so, so it's usually by then you go and get dinner for it. It has a lot of torque, but it doesn't have a lot of speed, if that makes sense. That's fine, it's perfect for going around town as it is a town bike. Now, it brakes, it doesn't have ABS, and it also doesn't have any mobile socket, and there's no fuel gauge either, you know. Not good points. But on the bright side, the rear brake is a drum brake, which you activate by going backwards, which is strange. It's probably common back in the day, but to me it's a novel concept. Front brake is your standard caliper brake, and it's push start only, which is unfortunate as I'm used to EFI, but you know, you have to make do with what they give you. It's also hardtail with no suspension, but the seat is sprung, so it's a bit forgiving that way. Jokes aside, it is a very nice bicycle, and I'm really happy to have it. The white wall tyres, well, fully white tyres, I think they look fantastic, and it's all metal construction. Only difference I might do is take off the Carlsberg logo, but then it loses its character, so I'd say I would leave that. But for going around town and getting shopping and stuff, it's pretty nice. And today, let's go have a look at Talbot Tower. I probably look like a weirdo, as you can see in my shadow there, sort of a silhouette of a spec ops operator. It's not as inconspicuous as when you're on the motorbike and have it on your chin. We have a gorgeous sunny Sunday evening here in Kilkenny, so I thought it is the perfect time to take you off to the castle and have a look. I say castle, but it's the old town walls. I wanted to go there on the Bullet, but I couldn't really justify getting all the gear on just to go 2 minutes down the road. So at least cycling and a bit of exercise, and makes it worth it. Now, because of the single speed nature of it, on flat ground it'll go for miles with no problem. But uphills tend to be a bit of a struggle, and downhills it kind of gets away from you. So today we're just going to Talbot Tower, which is right here, I think, in the heart of Kilkenny. Yeah, there she is. Hopefully it's open. Yeah, it's open. So. Now, something I think I forgot to show you at the start is that it actually has a kickstand, which I've never had a bike before that does that. So let's get you off my head. So this is one of the last remaining parts of the old city walls from the medieval times in Kilkenny. would have been about the 13th century, so we're talking 1200s. And the city wall enclosed 3 different boroughs, which were Hightown, Irishtown and St. John's on the opposite side of the River Nore. So a very substantial wall. The main purpose of the city walls was to defend the colonists in the event of an attack, but also to aid in collecting tax money. A tax called murage was levied on all goods that were brought through the gates of the city for sale, so you couldn't escape the tax man, much like today. They were converted to residences in the 14th century by the authorities and rented out as a source of revenue. But for some reason, Talbot's Tower was never inhabited, why it's largely the same as it was in the 1400s. One purpose of the tower was to prevent enemies from breaching the city walls. You'd have soldiers up there firing cannons and bows and arrows and muskets down at you. And if you survived that barrage, you'd have to climb through this ditch which would have been filled with rubbish. And then it's a 25-foot high wall. Well, it used to be. It was only breached twice, once by the Earl of Desmond in 1461, and the other time by Oliver Cromwell and his cronies. I'm sure we'll cover him again in the future video. But in the 16th century, because of gunpowder, the wall could no longer stand up to attacks, and they kind of lost some of their importance. From the 1700s onwards, Kilkenny was relatively peaceful anyways, and the walls were no longer needed, so they fell into disrepair. You know, my luck, if I keep that at the front, someone will be running off with it, so I'm going to take it back here while we go up on the ramparts. That probably would have been a gangway along the wall, the lower section back in the day, being supported by these 2 beams. Inside here was the guards post, so, well, you can't go in there now. Vintage COVID poster there from the early months of COVID in Ireland, but inside you would have had your beds and a fire, table, some food and some munitions for the bows and arrows and swords and what have you. These square holes in the walls were called put logs. They would have held timber beams in aiding the construction of the building. Climbing these stairs now, not under duress of battle, is a difficult enough task. So I can only imagine back in the day. And here we have the rounded top of this tower. Do you know, this is my first time actually being on the top of a tower, so I didn't know what to expect. What a view. So these walls would have gone along to join up with Kilkenny Castle there, I think. I think we'll leave it at that today. Nice and short. I hope you enjoyed this trip. Do subscribe, because the Bullet will be back very soon, and we'll get back into regular videos that aren't things that Danish people have given me for free. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.